Hello, and welcome to the Crypto Masters Podcast, helping the general public to master an understanding of crypto assets. My name is Brian McCoy.
And my name is Ross Eaton.
And we are
the Crypto Masters.
Ross, we have a blue chip asset, crypto asset to talk about in today's episode. Today we're going to discuss the crypto asset called Chainlink.
Ooh.
As a reminder, our goal is to provide information about crypto assets to help the public to make investment decisions on their own in the crypto space. We don't try to predict short-term price movements, so this show is not for short-term traders.
We want to provide information about, different crypto assets to allow you, the listeners, to make your own financial, investment decisions. And if you haven't watched our show before, this is when I say this is not financial advice. But we want to give you the power to go out, do additional research.
Yeah, not financial advice, and do your own research. Okay, we got that out of the way. So, Ross, get your matrix references ready because today we're discussing Chainlink, a decentralized oracle.
Yes.
So this is not an oracle from Greek mythology. Instead, in the crypto world, an oracle brings real-world data from off-chain onto on-chain smart contracts. And Ross, before we focus on Chainlink specifically, let's briefly talk about smart contracts.
Yep, we've mentioned this before, obviously in our Ethereum podcast, Ethereum being a smart contract platform. But smart contracts are built on top, on the blockchain. They're basically if-then protocols. They're deterministic. Wow, I can't talk. But you get an input in, and you should get an output out. It's very logical. All you computer science nerds know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I remember from my college days in my programming class, if X then Y, or if the old if then statements was a big part of it.
Yep, it's all about if these conditions are met, one or many, then this happens. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that's the smart contract. That's part of what the Ethereum and similar platforms are doing. They're putting those onto the blockchain and allowing the immutable aspects of the blockchain to apply to those smart contracts. So let's talk about some examples of the off-chain or real-world data that might be needed for the smart contracts. One thing that's kind of big is the crowdfunding information. Some of those will have a particular limit, and if the limit is reached, then the money flows out to the company that's putting on the funding program. And if it's not reached, the money goes back to the investor. So that's kind of an if-then real-world event that would need to go from off-chain real-world to on-chain. Other things, there's countless, but weather. Was there a hurricane on this date? Did it reach 75 degrees on this date? The more common ones are sort of like commodities price data. Did the price of gold reach a certain dollar amount per ounce? And for crypto and DeFi, some of this is the crypto pricing data. So you want to know what other crypto assets are doing. That's some off-chain data that will need to be brought on-chain. And like I said, that became really big for Chainlink in the summer of DeFi, the summer of 2020. And, it was a big part of Chainlink's price spike at that time. So we just talked about a few examples, though, Ross. It seems kind of easy. Why don't you just have somebody deliver that information? Email. Look at the weather report and email, the weather of information or the price of gold on that day, or have Google, send it. Why not just do that? It seems easy.
Yeah. So really, I'm going to be talking a lot to my developers here watching, or my computer science nerds, but this is a big thing in not just crypto, but in computing in general. A good example is billing in your company, and people coming in with Salesforce and want to integrate that together. You have two systems that basically could be written in different languages, speak different languages, and how do we integrate those together? And I'll mention a good example is APIs later, application programming interfaces. But that it's just a huge thing in computing to have a systematic way for different programs, software to really communicate with each other, and that's kind of the big thing here is, as you mentioned, how do I get this off-chain data onto my chain?
Yeah.
So, and hence the name, Chainlink. This is the link to that outside of this chain data. So,
and one of the answers, I guess, to my question about why isn't it easy, or why can't you just have somebody dedicated that you trust to do it? And I think the answer is, like we've talked about many times on crypto assets, is centralization, right? If you have a centralized source, you have a single point of failure, that can lead to problems, and it has led to problems. I mean, there have been other oracles that have been hacked or have been maliciously overtaken.
Yeah. And just to note on this quickly, being a developer in my day-to-day job, we often utilize stuff like this, like APIs to, something external from our current application to go fetch stuff. A good example is the weather. And I'm sure you've seen it on your banking applications or, when you sign into Wells Fargo or wherever you bank. You could go in and see like a little weather notification. Hey, the weather in your area is this. Well, in that application, they're more likely going to outside source to grab that. And like you're mentioning, Brian, if that's a single source of failure, then you could, I don't know if you've ever caught this, but you can also, like, that weather notification could just be grayed out one day. And that's because that central source has just kind of died. Maybe they did a server upgrade and it's just out for the day.
And you think about the incentives for malicious players with the billions of dollars at stake in smart contracts. There's a big incentive to try to hack that oracle and change it to the way that you're going to change it and benefit from it if you're a malicious actor, and that has happened. Or you could bribe someone to provide false data. So that was kind of the oracle problem, it was called, that Chainlink did a good job to overcome. And so, Ross, I guess without getting too technical, why don't you talk about sort of how they did that? How does Chainlink work in order to provide the reliable off-chain data on-chain?
Yeah. And just to note, our goal with Crypto Masters, again, is to provide, a very high level, for the beginner, really just want to touch base on the technical aspects. We
don't want to bore them to death.
I don't want to read the white paper word for word for you, but
right.
As we've mentioned, Chainlink is obviously a decentralized network, all about getting data off the blockchain to the blockchain. How does this work? So first we need a smart contract enabled blockchain. Wow. And a good example here, I'll be mentioning Ethereum a ton, but Ethereum smart contract needs outside of this world data. So how are you going to get that efficiently and systematically? Well, that's where Chainlink comes in. So the Ethereum smart contract makes a request for outside this world, off-chain data, and that's where the almost said Ethereum, the Chainlink protocol sees that request, grabs it, creates a smart contract request itself on its chain, goes and fetches it, kind of interprets this data into a form that now the Ethereum smart contract can accept it and then sends it. So it's kind of like almost like a translator, if you will. It grabs that request for the Ethereum smart contract, gets it, interprets it, sends it. So that's really a good, I think, a high level overview of what's going on here.
And one part of that, I mean, I know we don't want to get into the excruciating details, but there are node operators, so that there's sort of, again, the decentralized part of it is there's lots of these nodes out there, so there's not just a single source, and they are, correcting each other to the extent there's any differentiation, that'll be noted. And so when you have all these sources bringing the same data, you don't have just a single source.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, Brian, because there are there's checks and balances
Checks and
in
balances.
place.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have multiple nodes coming at you with this data, and when a request comes from the Ethereum smart contract, multiple nodes can go and try to fetch that data and send it back to you. So let's say you have I'm using weather as an example a lot, but let's say you have 5 nodes report that the weather in Chicago is 50 degrees right now. Probably not good for this time of year. But you have one that reports that it's 20 degrees. So you're going to take these 5 must be correct, and this one is off, or maybe I requested in Fahrenheit and it's giving me Celsius, or whatever's going on. So there are checks and balances, and if it's something financial, just for simplicity, maybe they take an average of these 5 where this one is off or something like that. So that's where that decentralized aspect comes in.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the Chainlink token, which is called a link. It's a ERC 677 token, which basically just means it's part of the Ethereum blockchain. So Chainlink doesn't have its own blockchain. It's on Ethereum. But as we just mentioned, it does have the node operators, and I'll touch on those in a minute. And then it has users of the oracle. So, the smart contracts that are requesting the information from off-chain, those are sort of what I'll call the users. They're actually technically called the requesting contract holders.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so you have the node operators, and then you have the requesting contract holders, and they use Link. So the protocols that are using the Chainlink Oracle will actually use Link to pay the node operators for their work. So that's one way that the token has demand. But interestingly, there's also another way. Chainlink node operators themselves have to use Link to stake on the network. So for them to be a node operator, they have to acquire a link, and then they have to stake it. And so then the link that they've staked onto the protocol actually can be used to incentivize their behavior and de-incentivize their behavior. So if they, like you in your case, where the one node reported different weather data than the others, if it turns out that was something malicious, they lose some of their stake. And so there's a real incentive and disincentive there, which I think is nice. So both of those, you have the two things driving demand for the token, both the utility, because it's required to use the services, and then the staking by the node operator. So that's nice. Mm-hmm. All right, little background. Project started in 2014, and it was called smartcontract.com.
Need to change that.
Yeah, but it changed its name to Chainlink, and in 2017 it had an ICO. There's a total supply of 1 billion Link, and currently there's about 400,000 that are in circulation as of the date of this podcast. As far as buying Link, it's really on every major exchange, including Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, so it is not a difficult token to find. If you want it, you can buy it.
No, for sure. And something like this high up, it's got to be easily accessible. You know, it's just what is it right now, Brian? Is it 9 or
number
6?
10? I think
10. Okay, yeah.
As of today, but of course, there's a lot of change shuffling.
Yes, a lot of change, especially right now. But of course, we always like to talk about the team, so I'll get into that. It doesn't have any big names, but they've obviously done well if they've gotten this far. If you follow them on Twitter, this. Maybe going a little off topic, man, they're just getting so many people to integrate with them. So that I think the team's doing really well to, kind of communicate with, I think they even landed some integration with Google Cloud. So they're doing great stuff to get this much hype going behind them. The CEO, and Brian, you're going to have to help me if I pronounce this wrong, but it's Sergey Zazarov. I think that's it.
I think that's it as well. I have heard of him, but like you say, not a big name in the industry, but there's nothing wrong with that. They've obviously done a great work with their project.
Yeah, and just a real quick on him, he is I just like to touch on immigrants. I think someone coming into the United States doing well is always a cool story, but he's a Russian immigrant, came here in the 90s, and when he was young, he was reading like programming manuals and stuff, which a guy in this position, he's got to be, a smart crypto nerd that we can get behind. So
Yeah.
he checks that box.
It's always good to have one of those on a project you're investing in.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add a little bit. I think it's important to add about the DeFi sector of crypto relies a lot on oracles, and Chainlink is clearly the leading oracle in the DeFi space. And this is huge. We saw in the summer of DeFi, summer of 2020. When DeFi projects took off, they were really relying heavily on Chainlink for the Oracle services, and we saw its price go up by several X's. And you mentioned some of their partnerships with some crypto projects, or they've reached deals with Ocean Protocol, BZX, Factum, Synthetics, which is a very good project itself, Chain, and others. I mean, they're just the leader on this.
Yearn.
Yeah,
Yearn, that's a big one. I have to throw that in there. That's my latest obsession. But
yes. We've talked about before how smart contracts on a blockchain are immutable, right? They can't be changed. That's one of the big positive aspects of the blockchain is you can't change things on there. Once they've happened, there's a permanent record of it. And so you can see then the importance of an oracle under those circumstances. If something goes wrong with the oracle, bad information is provided, a smart contract executes, with that improper data, you can't go back and change it, for the most part, as we know. So that's just very important. There's a security aspect to Chainlink, which emphasizes its importance.
For sure. And, just to talk about some competitors in the, Oracle space, we've got Band, Teller, Dia. I do have some Dia, just full disclosure.
Yep.
Nest, Uma, and Zap.
Chainlink clearly is the most well-known of those, but from my knowledge and research, those are a lot of other good projects, and we both invested in Dia.
Yeah.
But I've heard lots of good things about Band and Teller, and Uma has done well, and a lot of people like Zap. So it has some competitors, which is good. Always good.
Yeah. You need that.
I think it's time for final thoughts, Ross, and it's my turn to go first this week.
Kick it off, Brian.
All right. First, I'm going to disclose that I do own some Link. I've bought some. I would say after its initial run up, it settled down a bit. I thought, looked into it like this and decided it was a blue chip project that's only going to continue to do well. And so I say blue chip, and that's kind of the theme for my final thoughts. I look at Chainlink in the same way I look at a blue chip stock. You buy a blue chip stock knowing and hoping that it brings you good returns. You can count on some good returns. You don't count on you're not looking for necessarily a 50x with a blue chip. And I think with Chainlink, we sort of already had that. So I think now it's in more of a blue chip mode, and it will rise relatively steady. Now, relative in this case means relative to the crypto market, which is very different than stock. So it still can give you a very good return. But
That's a different steady for sure.
It is. But I view it as a blue chip in the crypto sector. And so I'm going to own it. I might continue to buy some dips and just hopefully sit back and watch my nice appreciation. And I want to add one thing, Ross.
Yeah.
I'm calling this, and I've said this to you before. I'm calling for another, and I expect another DeFi boom. It's coming.
Okay.
We had one. It cooled down. And what's happening is the projects are just getting better. We're getting more smart people, and the smart people already there are getting the projects even better. We're going to have another DeFi boom, and Chainlink's going to benefit from that. Because security, the network security, is just such an important part of DeFi. It's really the biggest knock on DeFi right now is, it's susceptible to security hacks.
Yeah.
And if Chainlink solves that problem, and it's the leader, so there are these other good competitors, but a lot of companies are going to go with the leader because it's safe. I just see Chainlink continuing to thrive. And my final thoughts are thumbs up, invest in Chainlink, and watch your appreciation.
For sure.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. Yeah, well, to notoriously piggyback off you, Brian, I agree as well. It's the biggest oracle there is right now. And just coming from the world of computer science, being a developer, it's just huge right now and for the future to have these integration layers, to be able to talk to different applications, different pieces of software. I think, cryptocurrency in general needs this integration layer to get stuff off chain, because you have these things in motion that Ethereum's been around for so many years. If they want to get off chain information, they have to go to Chainlink. These DApp developers have to use something like Chainlink to really link outside of the blockchain and get info. So this is a huge thumbs up. I've been kind of wanting to acquire it for a while, but of course the trend is just spiking. So I'm waiting for a good dip, but I might as well just try to get in now. But I really like this project. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's just an essential part of crypto is a reliable oracle, and Chainlink's the leader.
Oh yeah, and just go follow. I'll put a link to it in the description. Just look at the Chainlink Twitter. I mean, it's almost, some days it's several times a day. Chainlink integrates with this. Chainlink integrates with that. I mean, it's just constant, crazy hype around this project. So yeah.
Yep. All right, Ross. That's another podcast from the Crypto Masters. Tune in next time when we'll talk about another crypto asset.
Thanks, guys. You stay safe out there.